November already. Good grief, this year is flying by hard. Gotta think of something for Christmas. For now, another very important topic, as we still are in 2022 as I speak. The year I became 30 years old. You know what else became 30 years this year?
In hartje Europa bevindt zich een betoverende plaats waar de helden van de klassieke tekenfilms van Walt Disney uw vrienden worden. Disneyland, Parijs.
But plot twist, this video ain't about Disneyland Paris itself. Oh no. I might do that later though, I'm not completely sure. I had been writing a script for it, but as I was going I realized what I really wanted to make a video about. Hello childhood friend, we meet again. I've talked about the Haunted Mansion on this channel. My first video ever is actually about Phantom Manor in a comparison video, old vs new. But, come to think of it, I have never done a true proper video on this dark ride. Today, this is the video. We are gonna do it all here. Lore, background, all the good stuff. As Phantom Manor and I share the same age, this is the perfect time to cover the bases and finally talk about what I consider so far the best dark ride I have ever ridden. When Disney was designing a sibling park for Europe, they initially wanted to copy most of the original rides from Disneyland California and transmit them to what was called back then Euro Disney, located in Paris. While most of the rides in Disneyland Paris were similar to the originals, this was not the case for the Haunted Mansion. Walter Disney himself had a very specific vision when designing his Disneyland in California, and he wanted his park to be prestige, clean, fancy and elegant. A rundown, decaying haunted house had no place in that vision. Thus, the Haunted Mansion was designed as a proper, clean mansion, in the Dutch colonial architecture style you find in New Orleans. This, however, was a problem for a European Disney park, mostly because the public that would be attracted to this park would be far more multicultural. Different languages, different cultures and backgrounds. A clean New Orleans mansion would not immediately read as Haunted Mansion attraction and would not fit in the same way it did in an American park. So what did they do? Go directly against Walt's design statements for Haunted Mansion and create a rundown, decaying, Victorian-style house that looks like something the Addams family would live in. This house should scream haunted house attraction to everyone visiting the park, to make it clear what kind of attraction this is. One of the sources of inspiration was the 4th Ward School in Virginia City. The queue and ride setup is largely the same to the Haunted Mansion, dark rides in other Disney parks. The attraction finally opened on April 12, 1992, at the same time as the rest of the park, and was given the name Phantom Manor, a synonym for Haunted Mansion, but closer to French and easier to understand in multiple languages. At the start of the 19th century, a man named Henry Ravenswood discovered gold in a mountain that locals called the Thunder Mountain. He founded his own mine company in the nearby town Thunder Mesa, built a mansion directly in front of it, and started a family with his wife Martha, who he had a daughter with named Melanie. Things were doing great, even though the Native Americans that were driven out of the town warned about the Thunderbird. This entity could create thunder, storms and earthquakes with its wings, and as he is residing in the Thunder Mountain, you better not disturb him. Quit the mining this instant. Henry, of course, did not take this advice, and as the gold was starting to run out, he ordered his miners to dig deeper and deeper. Melanie by then had turned into a lovely woman, and quite some men fancied her. There have been suitors here and there, like Sawyer Bottom, Captain Rowan D. Falls, Ignatius Icky Knight, and Barry Claude. All these men have disappeared over time, and even though it has always been clear Henry did not approve of any man for his daughter, it was never proven he did anything to them. The latest suitor was a train engineer, and Melanie really did fall in love with this man. They even planned on marrying, and he would take her far away from Ravenswood Manor and Thunder Mesa to start a new life somewhere else. Henry was not happy when he heard this, but before he could do anything about it, disaster struck. A terrible earthquake plagued the town. The Thunder Mountain collapsed and the entire area was wiped out. The whole town died, including Henry and his wife, who were present in the mine when it happened. Melanie and her fiancé were at Ravenswood Manor at the time, thus surviving the earthquake. Their wedding day came closer and closer, and as they were preparing everything, something weird happened. The day of the wedding, Melanie was all perked up in her dress and ready to say I do. As hours go by and guests start to leave, her groom did not show up. She waited and waited, but he just didn't came. She took her candelabra and wandered around the house looking for him, until she couldn't bear the heartbreak anymore and perished. A dark presence entered the house, and it had a demonical laugh that filled the corridors. Ghouls and ghosts resided as they were invited by a mysterious spirit called the manor itself had truly lost its beautiful glow by now. It was in a terrible state, withering away, taken over by weeds and trees, and one would say it's completely abandoned. But the Phantom is still here, and so is Melanie, still singing and wondering as the Phantom is mocking her. She should have listened to him, her own father. No man was ever good enough for her, and Henry, even in death, made sure of it by getting rid of her groom-to-be, trapping her inside Phantom Manor for the rest of eternity. And here we are. This is the lore of Phantom Manor summarized. They did not have to go this hard. They could have just made a more similar copy of the Haunted Mansion, just with a Wild West Victorian age coat of paint over it. After all, the Haunted Mansion is not even close to this level of lore and story. And the Haunted Mansion doesn't need it. But with Phantom Manor it is very, very welcome. And the overall public seems to agree. Which version is better? That really depends on what you prefer. Do you love a ride that throws all kinds of concepts and ideas at you, mixing them all together at this fun and fancy creepshow with very eccentric characters? Haunted Mansion is your pick. Or do you care more about a plot-heavy ride that immerses you into the story and gives you a dark, gothic, consistent tone all throughout? Well then, Phantom Manor is your match. I am not even gonna start with this one, since the answer you'll get out of me is pretty obvious. It's also not very fair, I mean bias is coming into play and all. The Haunted Mansion never stood a chance compared to Phantom Manor and my history with it. If I have to throw away my nostalgic glasses and objectively analyze the ride side by side, I'd say they both are extremely strong in their own rights. Disneyland Paris has a lot of its rides slightly altered from their originals. I mean, their Pirates of the Caribbean is practically a reversed version of the original, and their Thunder Mountain is the only version that is located on an island, with the tracks going under the water. But Phantom Manor is by far the most altered and unique from its older sibling, and after the great refurbishment of 2019, it will continue to amaze and scare new generations to come. Thank you for being here, and I'll see you all in the Christmas special.